Yeah, I'll figure it out later. Hello everyone and welcome to something new I'm going to be trying out on this channel. I'm going to be talking about something that I grew up absolutely loving. It's something that my mom probably shouldn't have let me watch growing up, but she would wake me up late at night just to let me watch it because it was something I just kind of fell in love with. Now, while other kids were falling asleep to wonderful bedtime stories, having sweet dreams, I was getting told bedtime stories by the Crypt Keeper. That's right, we're here to talk about Tales from the Crypt. I'm surprised I was able to watch this show growing up because there was a lot of suggested themes, a lot of blood, a lot of violence, a lot of boobies in the show too. So me being an adolescent watching this show is a little it answers so much as to who I grew up to be. I grew up on horror. That was my thing. It still is my thing. So that's why I kind of wanted to dive into something new and talk about a passion of mine. So why not with Tales from the Crypt? Now this is the first episode, so it's going to be a little dicey, a little bumpy, but give me a little feedback in the comments down below. Let me know of some things that you'd like for me to go over, suggest a couple other things. I'm open to feedback. I'm open to criticisms. If I'm doing a good job, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Good, bad, don't matter. First episode, we'll figure it out. Yeah. So let's jump into the series. Tales from the Crypt was a late night HBO show that aired in 1989, ran to 1996. Now looking back at the show as a whole, ultimately wasn't all that scary. There's actually a lot of comedy in this show too. The scariest part for me would probably be the intro, and pretty much this guy right here is the most terrifying thing in the entire show. I would have to close my eyes while you hear that da 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 da. Yeah, I'd be like this, just kind of peeking through until he finally pops up out of the coffin and does the big loud Tales from the Crypt. As soon as I heard that, I knew it was safe. I knew it was good. I mean, even after the intro, he gives us a little introduction to the stories and whatnot, gives his really bad puns to it. That's tame too. It's literally just the aesthetic of the intro that scared the shit out of me. Other related shows, if you've never watched Tales from the Crypt, other shows that can compare to Tales from the Crypt in terms of theme would have been Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark, The Twilight Zone. For the modern age, it was a Netflix series, Cabinets of Curiosity. That was probably the newest one because each episode has a different director for it. The writers stayed fairly the same all the way through, but each episode has a new director, and some of them you won't know their names, but you will know some of the works that they have done. Okay, so this whole series is going to be me geeking out, so bear with me, but I think it's pretty cool to know that some of these directors, actors, writers worked on Tales from the Crypt. You wouldn't know them from Tales from the Crypt. You would know them from these big blockbuster hits, in my opinion. I think it's fucking great. It's like I said, I'm going to be geeking out about this. So I hope you're ready for that. If not, well, there's the door. Get the fuck out. Let's talk about the very first episode. One that started it all. The Man Who Was Death. This episode aired on June 10th, 1989. The director is Walter Hill. If you're not a movie buff, you're not really going to know any of the movies that he's done. He directed The Warriors. That's right. He did 48 Hours with Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte. He did Undisputed with the badass Wesley Snipes. Can't say Wesley Snipes any other way. He actually produced all of the Alien series too. I think he's even producing the newest Alien movie that's coming out right now too. So he's worked on a tremendous amount of things. The leading actor in this episode is William Sadler. Now, this is a name you've probably heard of, but the face you've more than likely seen. Now, William Sadler, he was Death in Bill and Ted's Bogus Adventure. He was the main villain in Die Hard 2. He was also the president in Iron Man 3 and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So he was in the Marvelverse. Pretty crazy. This guy's actually been in a shit ton of movies and TV shows, and he's just a well-rounded actor. Having him in the very first episode is a solid start. His performance, I think, is very strong. Now let's get into the episode. The episode starts off with the Crypt Keeper playing with a bug zapper, or that they just fly up to, like in a Bug's Life. It's like, I can't help it, it's so beautiful. Ah! Yeah, he's playing with one of those, and he always introduces the stories in every episode with some pretty bad puns, or just kind of like gives a theme of the episode. So after that, opens up his big tome with all the comic covers into it and hops into the story. Now, this story is William Sadler. He plays a man that goes by the name of Niles Talbot. He's a nice Oklahoma boy. Now, throughout the episode, he gives life advice, his world views and moral stances. Some of it's pretty solid. Some of it's a little questionable. But overall, he seems like a pretty good dude. Until he's not. But the scene opens up with Niles giving an introduction to one of the death row inmates that's about to sit on his throne. The inmate on death row, it's Charles Ledbetter, and every time I try to say that, I say bedwetter. Okay, that's what it sounds like. It's tongue twister. You try saying it. Fuck. Well, Charlie, he's on death row because he tried asking for a raise at work and got denied. So, any of us would do the same. Anybody who gets shot down for promotion or raise at work, we all kind of do the same. We stuff our feelings way down, and we start, we get kind of drunk. Well, Charlie got drunk, and then he went out to his car to grab his pistol, talk to his boss, and try to persuade him to give him that raise. Well, went in and went all Yosemite Sam on that bitch. And there he is, waiting to take the big old static shit, if you will. So anyways, after the nice introduction of Charlie, then it cuts to Charlie being dragged down this very, very long hallway, kicking and screaming and hollering about how the governor's gonna call. And well, all this time Niles is explaining how it doesn't matter how tough you are or what crime you committed. You could be the biggest, baddest man in the world, but you're still going to be kicking and screaming like a little sissy on your way to the chair. Niles also kind of explains the myths of the electric chair and how they're all false. How you start foaming at the mouth, or you're bleeding black from your eyes and all that stuff. But apparently the smoking head is true, and apparently it ain't pretty either. And after the excruciatingly long hallway scene, Charlie's now getting strapped into the chair, and Niles is giving his best sympathy and his best bedside manner when this guy's about to get fried. He's real sympathetic. He's like, oh, Charlie, stop being so chicken shit. It's just like, okay, dude, really? Come on now. This is the last thing you're going to be saying? Fuck. Meanwhile, this priest is just yapping on in the background, just... It's just, you don't even know what the priest is saying. I know he's reading his last rites or whatever, but he's just blah, 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 just yapping on in the back. Niles also goes on to say how most executioners don't like looking at inmates in the eyes when they're about to strap them in, afraid they're going to get all spooked and scared away, but not Niles. Niles loves to watch. So after Niles straps Charlie in, he gets behind the curtain or whatever, getting ready to flip the switch, and then the warden and Niles both look at the Powerpuff Girls phone that calls from the mayor. Powerpuff Girls, they're gonna flip the switch. The governor never calls. Niles flips that switch, and I guess with the they never say what state they're in, but this state apparently has a fear of zombies, so Niles gives them the good old double tap. That's the end of old Charles. Well, after that, the scene cuts to a nice overpass of the city in the nightlight and all that stuff. And Niles gives his intro of himself, and when he does this reminds me of one of those it was like 1980s 1990s like dating videos that people would watch, and then they kind of like how we do today, but imagine Tinder in a VHS format. that's what it is. Like, if you remember Bobby Boutronic, that's what this reminded me of. So Niles is sitting on the bridge on the overpass looking at the nightlife. He's like, I'm an Oklahoma boy. He gives his whole spiel about that. He's like, I love the city. Lights all nice, bright, and pretty. This guy has an affinity for electricity. Like, you know how people find electricity a little erotic and pleasurable? Pretty sure Niles does too. I don't know the term for it, but I'm pretty sure that's what he's got, because he goes off about it. He's into that shit. He's not into gas. He's not into lethal injection. It's got to be the good old electric chair for him. So after his dating video submission and after putting a man to death, what does anybody else do after that? Well, you go to your local diner and get a nice cheese sandwich and a cup of black coffee. Well, while Niles is waiting for his nice, delicious dinner to come his way, the news is playing up on the TV, and they're going over about how moments ago, literally moments ago, how Mr. Bedwetter got executed. How now the state legislator wants to abolish the death penalty because they still think it's murder in the eyes of the Lord, and some people find it to be a good deterrent against crime and stuff like that. And all the meanwhile, Niles is watching TV, just about ready to have an aneurysm. Like, and, you know, as soon as they get over that whole newscast, it's boom, back at work, ready to do my job. Nope, fired. Yeah, Niles gets shit canned. But and the warden is so very sorry. Like, he gives the most blasé, just emotionless. He reminds me of Ben Stein. Almost, if anybody remembers that. I'm sorry, Niles. I gotta let you go. And he's like, well, shit. Well, I fine. Fuck it. I get it. Y'all don't want me around no more. And then what does anybody do after they lose their job? Well, they go to the bar. They go get drunk and talk about their woes and whatnot. And, you know, here's another life advice lesson from good old Niles, is about how people need friends and people to hear them out, and how bars are kind of like that too. You know, you always make friends at bars, and you can make friends, chat and yap about whatever, you know, mainly it's about sports or pussy. You know, a lot of people like to ask Niles about his job because, I mean, who wouldn't? Really, kind of interesting, kind of fucked up, but kind of interesting. He's got a good friend with the bartender, and his name's Vic. Vic also was in Bill and Ted's Bogus Adventure. Well, anyways, Vic and Niles are yapping, and while they're chatting about how he lost his job and all this stuff, dude, Vic is horny for Niles. Like, he's giving him the whole giving him those looks like the entire time and repeating back what he's like. Dude, Vic wants in those pants. He wants them. You know, while Vic is intently listening, the whole Niles is going off on a whole spiel about how executions should be broadcasted publicly instead of like pretty much snuff, right? Because he think it'd be like the highest rated TV show ever, and Geraldo Rivera would be flipping the switch too if it would come to that. Broadcast would be killing people left and right just to compete. Vic's real upset about this. After the whole bar scene, Niles starts walking the streets. Again, I don't know what city he is in. They never say, so it's like I feel like they're New York City, but yeah, he says he's from Oklahoma, so I have no idea. Well, he's walking the city. He's giving more life advice about. I would say it's a morality thing. You know, he starts discussing about how people at the prison were wronging him and how they were afraid of him because he wasn't afraid of death and everybody else is and whatnot. And he's like, well, you know, death is all around us. We eat it, we breathe it, we fuck it. We're pregnated with death, or we're pregnant with that, whatever. And so He's standing there. Look at those two junkies over there. It's just two dudes standing outside of a TV store. They're just normal guys. Like, they're probably not even junkies. He's just like, look at those bums over there, fucking junkies. It's weird because he starts talking about how he admires junkies, how they tease death a little bit, you know, and they'll do anything just to shoot a little death in the arm. He says this really fucking metal line. I really like this. It says, anything to do to get a little taste of the grave, which I think is fucking badass. Man, that's a sick line. And he's just going off about how he's like, you know, I admire them for it. And then he looks at you, he's like, the junkies are shit. He's like, oh, I really admire these guys, but you know what? They fucking suck. It's just like a backhanded compliment, like right away. You know, after the whole morality thing. So, you know, after all this being said and done, being fired, all that stuff, instead of Niles going to find a new job as an executioner somewhere else, Niles is like, fuck that. I'm going to do my job regardless. I'm going to go fucking kill some people. Well, he doesn't say it like that. He's a little more sane than that. He kind of does the whole Dexter Morgan thing. And so we see him sitting in the audience of it's a murder trial of Jimmy Flood. You may have seen Jimmy before in the Terminator 2. He's the biker that Arnold just throws through the kitchen and steals his clothes and is like, I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle. He's that guy. So Jimmy's on trial for the murder of some dude. The judge is going off and saying how Jimmy is clear of the trial. Jimmy gets to go free because the warrant was poorly worded, which I don't know if that can actually get you off of a murder trial. I don't know the law, so that just seems a little crazy to me. So Jimmy gets to go free. And he's just, yeah, ha ha ha, fuck you, I'm out this bitch. And he throws on his biker coat while he's still wearing his onesie from the prison. He starts waltzing out with his biker buddies, and this lady's in the audience. She's like, you killed my brother. He grabs her, starts shaking her like she's all hysterical and shit. She spits in his face. He's like, brother was into dudes. I went the nice route on that one. He said something way worse. Again, this was the 80s and 90s, a different time. They said a lot of stuff on TV. But, we'll just say he was into dudes. That's why Jimmy killed him. Anyway, then it, pans over that Niles was just sitting in the audience over here and everything, because you're gonna try and find people to execute. Well, might as well go hang out at the courthouse, right? So with all that information, back to another episode of Life Advice from Niles Talbot. So we see Niles sitting in an alleyway, lighting up a cigarette, giving a speech about how, he's got nothing against bikers. He kind of agrees with how bikers feel like they're the Americans of old and before the world went to shit and all that stuff and what they stand for. But he's like, well, Jimmy crossed the line. Jimmy's got to pay the price. Niles is an executioner via the electric chair. It's got to be the electric chair for old Niles. Dependable. It's reliable. It gets the job done. So Niles goes home alone too on that motherfucker. You see Jimmy rolling up into the alley to his biker hangout or whatever. And I guess Niles did his research on where these guys like to hang out. I don't know. I would assume this is the night of the trial or after the trial happened. For him to find out where Niles hangs out, that was really fucking fast. But anyways, Jimmy comes rolling up on his hog to his biker hangout, and he's got to go unlock this gate. So he comes waltzing up, ready to unlock the gate. Well, Niles has that gate rigged to just... And as soon as Jimmy grabs it, he starts freaking. Oh! It gave me the same vibes as Marv getting fried in Home Alone 2. Like, I'll show you. Like, seriously, it's the same fucking thing, dude. It's so good. 10 out of 10. Mwah. It's so funny. Now that Kevin McAllister fried good old Jimmy, now we cut back to the bar with some more one-on-one time with Vic. Again, I'd like to think this all took time in the same day. I know it's not, because on the TV, the news is reporting about how Jimmy got electrocuted in some alleyway. But again, I'd like to think it's like the very same night. There it is. So Niles and Vic are watching TV, watching all this unfold. And Vic says, and they say there's no God. Then Vic, I don't know how they get on this, how they got on this topic, but Vic's he's asking about how the statistics say that the electric chair is mainly minorities. Vic's like, well, I don't pay attention to all that. They're all pretty dark after I get done with them. Good one, Niles. Good joke. Haha. Funny. I mean, it's 80s and 90s humor. It's just kind of dumb. He has his one-on-one time with Vic. After the bar, after a good powwow, he goes, hangs out at the courthouse again. Now we're on the trial of Cynthia Baldwin, and we all know that the Baldwins have a good rep in the courthouses, so see how this pans out. So it's Cynthia Baldwin and Theodore Carney on trial for the murder of, classic case of guy kills wife, gets the money, runs off with some broad. It's one of those cases. Well, they get off scot-free, charges are dropped, and they're like, oh, thank God it's finally over. They're just in the courthouse, just ready to go at it. Well, they split apart. There's Niles sitting right there, just I know what I gotta do. And now, more life advice with Niles Talbot. I mean, this is actually pretty solid stuff. Is if you're gonna kill for love, you might as well make sure she's worth it. You want to go for substance, or you know, you don't want to kill for just a pretty face. You want to make sure, you know, there's some there's a real connection. You know, you want to make sure the sparks fly in this relationship. Sure, she's hot. Is it worth it? I don't know. And he gives all that spiel, and he tracks them down into like this parking garage hot tub. It seriously looks like it's in a parking garage. That's when I see it, that's what comes to mind. It's just this dark, dank, cavernous place with a hot tub in it, which is fucking ridiculous to me. So, you know, you see the two celebrating with a glass of champagne and whatnot. Niles comes out from the shadows and presents himself. The two get all like, oh my god, what do you want? Listen, I got $200 in my pants over there, you can have it. The lady chimes in, is like, I got some money in my purse too, just don't hurt us. Niles like, I don't want your money. Theodore Connie, I find you guilty of murder of your wife, and I sentence you to death. Be carried out immediately. And then so as soon as he says he's gonna carry out a death penalty, they start. Cynthia is just like, it was all his idea, he fucking did it, get his ass, bro, this bitch. He's like, shut up, Cynthia. No, shut up, Cynthia. Here's another thing. Niles has the jacuzzi rigged. I know he's an electrician and all, but how do you hook up or rig a 1980s jacuzzi that's in a parking garage to just by a flip of a switch electrocute everybody? Like the lights are on and everything. Well, maybe the jets, I don't know. It didn't make any sense to me. I mean, he must be really fucking smart if he was able to do that. Anyways, he fries him with the hot tub, a witch's brew almost. So, you know, after he makes some lover stew, we're right off to the next kill. We already have the next one lined up. Again, the timeline, the pacing so fast, I feel like this is all in one day. We waltz into a strip club. Again, a little more life advice. And this one's good and bad. Got a yes and a no to it. It's just, this is love advice. This is dating advice with Niles Talbot. That's what it's not life advice, it's dating advice. He's like, I can get a woman. I never had a problem with that. I just bash her over the head with a club and I bring her back to my cave. That's how we do it. But you know, you just never want to fall in love, because once you fall in love, that's when they get you. Gotcha, bitch. No, they'll take your balls and how you want to treat whores like queens and queens like whores, you know? That's how you want to do it. Okay, whatever. I mean, I've been single for a while, but I didn't know that's the way to go about it. Anyway, we're in a strip club. Our latest death row inmate, I don't know what you want to call him, our next victim, is a go-go dancer up in a cage, just, yeah, woo, just putting on a show. But while she's up in her metal cage, by the way, we see this Wile E. Coyote rigged jumper cables that go from the cage up into like this projection booth, movie theater style shit. And it's like anybody with eyes can fucking see that. They're ginormous cables dangling from the fucking ceiling. So it's like, who are you kidding? And anyway, he goes up into the booth and he's about ready to flip the switch and he just throws it down, but it ain't going. So he calls IT and IT just tells him, have you tried turning it on and off again? And he's like, yeah, but not working. Fuck. Well, next thing you know, SWAT comes swarming in, kicks open the door, and he's like, Niles, you're under arrest. Oh shit. And I'm just thinking, like, who's been investigating him this entire time? I mean, granted, it's not a hard case to solve because all these deaths have been by electrocution and they're all convicted murderers. And Niles has been working for the state penitentiary for 12 years. People in this circle might know his face. To sit in a murder trial and those people that got off happen to be found later on electrocuted to death, that's kind of putting the pieces together, man. You're leaving kind of a fucking trail. It was only a matter of time. Well, anyways, Niles gets arrested, brought down to the precinct. He's just sitting there and is like, oh shit. Well, they finally got me. That's gonna suck. At least the death penalty got abolished. I don't gotta worry about that. Well, the lead detective that was investigating this 3-day murder spree comes waltzing in, all just being a real cocky twat. He's like, well, Mr. Talbot, since you're a fan of state execution, you'd happy to know that the legislator brought back the death penalty. But guess who's not flipping the switch this time? It's not going to be you. you're sitting in it this time. You're done. Well, you remember how in the beginning he was talking about how everybody starts kicking and screaming for the governor he's gonna call. That was foreshadowing, because now it's Niles' turn to start kicking and screaming, and he's going off about, oh, you know me, we've worked together, the governor's gonna call, he knows what I did, he's gonna fucking call. Same fucking story, man. You know, Niles is getting brought in, he's getting strapped in, it's getting closer and closer. That phone ain't ringing. He's like, you chicken shit fuckers, once you fry me and he calls, you're all gonna get shit canned, you chicken shit fuckers. Realization starts to set in, and he's just like, fuck, this is gonna happen. And then Ben Stein comes back in and gives the most sincere, just so sad. He's like, I'm really sorry I had to come to this, Niles. That's all he says. That's it. That's his sincere. 12 years, that's the most sincere apology you can give the guy. Really? That's fucked. I mean, I know Niles went a little ham, but come on, dude. I mean, if I was the governor, I'd probably call, right? I mean, all Niles did was kill people that actually, got off on some legality bullshit. But whatever. That's me. That's why I don't run for governor. I don't like politics anyways. They're stupid. Well, you know, it all sits in, and I was like, I was just doing my job. What good is it if I can't do my job? What good is anything? Well, you know, and then as the state mandates, you know, you get your double tap. Niles gets double tapped. Niles is out the door. Fade to black. While Niles' inner monologue goes off saying about how he declined getting his head shaved because they were afraid for his his hair would catch on fire. He's like, no need, the governor's gonna call. Remember the smoking head? Woo! Niles is smoking. That's it. That's the end of the episode. Crypt Keeper comes back, gives his outro and a couple funny puns. He's getting his rocks off, playing with his own electric chair at home. He's just kind of, I know it took 6 people to maneuver and puppeteer the Crypt Keeper, but it's so funny to see his little legs and then a beefy fucking forearm and hand, like real hand, coming out of the animatronic sleeves. It's just, it doesn't match up, but it's, you know, it's fun, and that's just kind of what this whole series is. It's gonna be fun. But as an episode as a whole for this one, that's another thing I'm gonna be doing. I'm gonna be rating these episodes 1 through 10, and then I think after each season I'll maybe do a tier list of each episode. Let me know if you guys want to see that, because I kind of already have an idea of where these rank, but we can go over all that together after. They're not going to be as long as this episode. Again, this is first episode, so this is going to be like our introduction and all that stuff, so this is going to be the rough one. The other ones will be a little bit more smooth. This episode as a whole, I would have to probably say an 8 out of 10 in general. The performance was really strong by William Sadler. The story was really good. The ending was really fun and ironic. There is some funny comedic parts throughout the episode as well. The pacing, it seemed a little fast. Again, I feel like this all happened in 3 days, but I mean, given that this is a half-hour time slot, you only got so much time to work with. So the pacing was like a little fast, but overall it was still a cohesive story. So yeah, in general, I'd say it's a solid start to the series, giving it an 8 out of 10. But let me know if you guys do end up watching some of these episodes. Come on back, let me know what you think. I do love getting people's opinions on movies and shows, regardless if they're wrong in my eyes or not. I'd still like to hear what you have to think. So yeah, again, leave a comment down below, and I hope you're excited for this series as I am, because again, this is a passion project. This is something new to my channel that I'm going to be trying. Hopefully they get better, because they're going to be real fucking difficult to deal with in the start. But I will catch you in the next episode.